Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. In honor of Ghostbusters Afterlife arriving, I decided to share my favorite Ghostbusters films. As you all know, ever since 1984, the Ghostbusters franchise has had a life of its own through comics, cartoons, sequels, and video games. Before I continue, comment down below your favorite Ghostbusters films. Cats and dogs, living together, mass hysteria. To start off the list, at number 4 is Ghostbusters Afterlife. This is a film that I love, one of my favorite films of 2021, and this is a sequel done right. There's a difference between ripping off previous films, such as like Star Wars Force Awakens and A New Hope, or Superman Returns, Superman the movie. And then there's a difference between homage and paying respects through a love letter of a film. That's what Ghostbusters Afterlife does. Is it a bit derivative from Ghostbusters 84? Absolutely. But it also honors everything that came before, even some nods to the video games, it being set exactly 30 years afterward. What makes this is the story and the respect given to Harold Ramis's Egon. The fact that Egon is shown at the beginning surprised me. There's some digital trickery that really freaked me out in this, but this film had a lot of heart. And even if the Ghostbusters aren't in it that much, their presence is felt throughout. And this is really Ghostbusters The Next Generation. You have Phoebe, who is basically Egon's granddaughter. You have his grandson, you have Egon's daughter. Was he the best dad? In his own way, yes. I don't want to think of his character as a deadbeat dad, but in other ways, Egon sacrificed his life for the greater good of this coming evil. And even if this film didn't have the Ghostbusters, I would still love it. But the fact that it does have the Ghostbusters is just the cherry on top of the cake. There's so much respect given. And some of that has to not only do with the writing, the involvement of Dan Aykroyd, but also Jason Reitman directing this. His father, Ivan Reitman, directed many wonderful films, including the first 2 Ghostbusters. So it does feel like The Next Generation. And it also remembers that Ghostbusters is not just a comedy. It's also kind of a horror film. It has supernatural thrills, and they do that. This film also brings back practical effects. But not only that, these characters are just well written. I love Phoebe in this. I love Podcast. All these characters are just done so well that they stand on their own and have an identity on their own, apart from the Ghostbusters. But it also not only pays homage to the lore, but expands it in so many ways. You have Shandor there, who is a major factor in the video game and was also the architect of the hotel in the first film. Gozer, oh my god, Keymaster, Gatekeeper, mini State Puffs. We have Baby Yoda, we might as well have mini State Puffs, but this is such a different film compared to the first 2, in the small town of Somerville. Annie Potts coming back. Sigourney Weaver's mid-credit scene, seeing that her and Venkman are together, Dana and Venkman are together, Ernie Hudson, Winston, probably going to be like the leader of the Ghostbusters later. He's going to take the reins. And people ask, what does the future of Ghostbusters look like? It's this film. It's Egon's grandchildren. It's Podcast. It's all these different characters we've seen in this movie. And it's been a while since I've seen a film treat something with respect, but just leave you feeling satisfied as a fan. And this is how you do a sequel. And it's probably the only way a sequel without Harold Ramis could have been done. And what can I say? It's nice seeing the guys back with proton packs at the end. I love Paul Rudd's character, but it's a good epilogue for the Ghostbusters story, and it's also the start of something new, so I cannot wait to see what the future brings. After that, at number 3 is Ghostbusters 2. A lot of people do not like this film. I've always loved Ghostbusters 1 and 2 equally. Ghostbusters 2 doesn't repeat a lot of the same stuff as the first. Absolutely. Does it do it as well? No. But at least it's something different. You have Vigo. Yeah, you have that creepy art guy with Dana, but you have Oscar the Baby, this pink slime, this new crisis for the end of the 80s. And it's kind of crazy to see how much has changed in 5 years. That Ghostbusters aren't taken seriously. Like, they're at birthday parties. Like, whoa. Venkman has his own television show. and ignores the one sidekick who actually predicts everything correctly. Overall, Ghostbusters 2 is a really fun movie. I love Rick Moranis. Him with Annie Potts is wonderful, and then that court scene is just action-packed. This is still the same old Ghostbusters, yet does something different to where it has an identity on its own. And I love On Our Own by Bobby Brown. That's such a great song. The Statue of Liberty being controlled by a freaking Nintendo controller, a little like joystick, is just so cool. And I don't know where the hate comes from. This is still Ghostbusters. You still have the main four Ghostbusters, and it treats it respectively. It didn't do anything to damage the original. It's just another film that's just like it, and they're great companion pieces. And Ivan Reitman does a great job again with this movie. I love Ghostbusters 2. I grew up watching this one a lot. I actually saw Ghostbusters 2 before Ghostbusters 1, so maybe that has something to do with it. But let's just say I've seen other so-called Ghostbusters films treat the characters with less respect and the lore. And this one doesn't do that. After that, at number 2 is Ghostbusters. And no, not that Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, the video game. Those wondering why I did not include 2016, no self-respecting Ghostbusters fan would include that. But you know what some self-respecting Ghostbusters fans would include? The actual third film, known as Ghostbusters, the video game. This is written by Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd, and it's pretty much the third film they never made. I absolutely love this. There's a reason for Stay Puft to be back. There's a reason for all these creatures from the first film to be back. They finally explained the connection between Ghostbusters 1 and 2, and they explained Shandor, who we see briefly again in Afterlife. Basically, Central Park's turned to a graveyard. New York, the ghost realm, is coming into our realm, and there's some serious stuff in this. What the video game does so well is that you're basically the perspective of a new recruit. But what I love about it is that it does tie in 1 and 2 to a larger story, brings in elements from the real Ghostbusters, and adds to the mythology. It has callbacks, yet it does something different on its own. And this is such an epic way to go out. If I only had one con about this, is that Dana's not in it. But still, Bill Murray, Harold Ramis, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson together for the last time. This is pretty much the start of what would be later on concluded in Afterlife. The twist of the mayor being possessed. Them actually confronting the library lady from the first film. There's just so many loose ends tied up. And what can I say? This is just the ultimate Ghostbusters experience, an interactive movie, but also a wonderful story by itself. If you didn't play it, this would be the Ghostbusters movie we all would have wanted to see back in 1991. After that, for my favorite Ghostbusters, 1984 original Ghostbusters. This is such a funny comedy. I wonder what the film would have been like with John Belushi and Eddie Murphy, but you know, you have Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson in this with Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd. And what I love about this is that it's a comedy, but it's also a film that remembers that Ghostbusters wasn't just a comedy. It was also kind of a horror thriller film, you know? And Venkman was the one making jokes, but not everybody was Venkman. They're all their own characters, and it was just basically these working Joes who are scientists, want to be funded, and then they're like, we're going to go ahead and go after ghosts, go after spectral spirits. And there's something cool about that, and that's where most of the comedy works. They're just everyday people like you and I, and they decided to just bust some ghosts up, you know? You have Slimer. We came, we saw, we kicked its ass. Love that. Gozer, are you the gatekeeper? Are you the keymaster? Every time I see one of those keymaster machines at the mall, I always think of Ghostbusters. You have Stay Puft, Zool.
Are you a god?
Then you have Peck, who, let's face it, is kind of a dick. The chemistry between all the Ghostbusters is just what makes this movie, and it's one of a kind. And, you know, without this, you wouldn't have paranormal shows, ghost hunters. It felt like it changed the genre in many ways. It's one of the greatest comedies out there that has its serious moments, yet works as a comedy, but isn't like a parody or spoof. It's that nice balance in between. And what can I say? With this series of films, I know who I'm going to call. Feel free to let me know your favorite Ghostbuster films down in the comments below. Those are mine. I love all of them, to be honest. Like, all the main Ghostbusters films, the Ghostbusters animated show, Real Ghostbusters, the comics, I love it all. And I cannot wait to see where the future goes with Ghostbusters, because, you know, with the franchising, with all these different characters, if they respect what came before and continue moving forward, the possibilities are endless, to say the least. Anyway, that does it. Subscribe for more videos. Check out these other videos for more content. May you all stay safe and healthy, and yeah, I'm going to enjoy a triple feature with Ghostbusters 1 and 2 and Ghostbusters Afterlife. Till next time, everyone.